Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 2 of the Human Mosaic, the show where each life, each story is a unique tile that fits into the bigger picture. I'm your host, Caillou Rivera, and today our guest is the wonderful Samantha Alvarez.
Thank you so much for having me, Kai. When you told me about this, I was like, yes, I want to go on it so bad. I was so excited. But hi, guys. I'm Sam. I'm 19 years old. I am a psychology major with a minor in sociology, and I hope to become a therapist for women and children one day. And today I'm going to be talking about mental health, but not just mental health, but also positivity and being able to create a beautiful life for yourself despite all the struggles that we face sometimes as human beings.
So, yeah, thank you for that. Firstly, can I call you Sam?
Yeah,
All right,
everyone
cool.
calls
Yeah,
me
all right,
Sam.
all right. Just making sure. Hey,
Yeah.
Just making sure. Was gonna say I really like your topic because I was afraid when I first started this show that people were going to say, I want to talk about your trauma. I want to talk about my trauma. I want to talk about my trauma.
I want to tell you guys about my lore.
I want a trauma dump, and it's really okay to do that. But also I wanted to not focus it in a negative light, right? So, like last episode we talked about religious trauma, and then there was this level of like acceptance and acknowledgement and awareness that I think is important. So when I heard you say like, oh, positivity with mental health, I was like, oh, that's great, because when people say, oh, just mental health, I think they're gonna be like, well, my dad left me when I was, and from there on, I hated my life.
Real.
So when you said positivity, I was like, wow, that's actually really great, and I can't wait to hear the spin you have on this. So, firstly, how did you? I just really want to start off with how did you kind of come across like the positivity part? Well, not come across, I would say. I would say, how did you adopt a positive mindset for mental health? Because we all struggle with mental health, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna guess, because you're a psych major, and I know how it goes with psych majors, being one myself, that we go through some fucked up shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how did you kind of adopt the positivity part? Where did that come from?
I think definitely from my own experiences, I often like to take a lot of the things that I go through, every interaction, like every fallout, every setback, and I also just like to take it as a bit of a learning lesson. Like a lot of the time, like the things that go on to us, the things that happen to us don't define us, but sometimes the way that we handle them do. And so I have always tried to I let myself feel. I'm a very sensitive person, and I think that's something that I've learned to really love about myself. Like being intuitive about the way I feel. Like if I need to cry, I'm gonna cry on the spot. Like that's totally fine. But then I want to grow from these things. I can choose to, you know, feel this and just stay in that space, or continue to move forward from it and continue to live a beautiful life for myself. And that's what I want to do. I want to take certain experiences, certain interactions, certain setbacks, like just times where life has kicked me in the ass, and just create something beautiful out of it for myself, you know?
Yeah, no, I think that was super super well said, beautifully said. I think
Thank you.
there's an importance in not letting it define you, because I'll just speak personally. Like I think that for me, the hardest thing I struggled with for a very long time was having so many traumatic experiences in my
Yeah.
in my own life that I started to let it define me, because it was all I knew. So
Yeah.
like I thought that trauma was part of my identity, and right now I still think it is, in a sense. So I'm really trying to like work on separating myself from that trauma and saying, well, it happened and this happened to me, but it doesn't define who I am. So I think that was
Yeah.
something that was wonderfully said.
Thank you.
But how did you kind of make that differentiation? How are you able to say this doesn't define me when you go through hard things or things that make you, setbacks that you may have experienced?
Okay. I know that a lot of things weren't always a reflection of me or my fault as a person. Sometimes it's the environment around us, and sometimes people treat us a certain way. Sometimes like people say things because they're also hurt themselves. And so I wanted to like move forward from that, and I don't want to be like a victim. I don't want to be someone that's just like in that like space where, oh, this happened to me. Like, no, I survived this. I overcame this. Overcame
Overcame.
overcame this. And I don't want to let it define me because I have so many other wonderful traits, as a person. Like, I'm hardworking, I'm a positive person, I'm pretty kind, I am very passionate about like my future and my goals. I'm compassionate and I'm gentle, and there's like so many other qualities that I have that are worth celebrating and really define me as a person, rather than, oh, this was the girl that went through that, or this was the girl that had this done to her, you know?
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So not allowing those. Yeah. So not taking those labels. I definitely see that. How do you kind of stay in that mindset of having those? Because a lot of people we see that go through certain things and maybe have people who don't treat them well may
Yeah.
start to believe the things that are said about them, or if they're not treated well in a way that's derogatory, where people kind of abuse them in ways that are emotional. Not saying that's happened to you, but people start to believe things like, oh, when you go through enough stuff, maybe I'm the problem. Maybe it's my fault that these things are happening, and they start to
Yeah.
kind of view themselves in a negative light. So, what do you think are some like protective factors for you that kind of made it possible for you to stay resilient, stay strong, and say, well, no, I know what I am, and I know that I'm this, and I know that I have all these great traits about me. How do you keep that mindset? And when things happen, how do you kind of just let that bounce off of you in a sense to say, well, this happened, but I'm still me.
I mean, honestly, it's still something that I'm learning because, like I said, I'm a very sensitive person, and I don't really always let a lot of the things that people do and say get to me. But at the same time, I'm like a division 1 overthinker. Like, I overthink everything.
I
Like,
get that.
probably like even after this like interaction, I'm gonna walk out of this building and be like, did I say everything right? Like, did I say anything offensive? Like, did I say anything mean? Because I'm like that. Like, I overthink so much. And yeah, like, I've had people like, tell me like things, like, for example, I wasn't in like the healthiest relationship in high school, and like, I'd often be told that I was the issue whenever I'd confront the person that I was with about like their disrespectful behavior.
So gaslighting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
gaslighting.
being
And
gaslit.
like, eventually that stuff gets to you, especially like when you're growing up. And so a lot of the time, like, I just check in with myself and I remind myself the kind of person that I am. I think about times that I'm kind to myself, that I'm kind to others. I think about how strong and resilient I am, and I surround myself with people that celebrate those traits about me. you know like, I would much rather be in a space where, even if it's not with anyone, but as long as I know who I am, like, that's all that like truly matters. And obviously, like, learning and you know learning about who you are as a person, like, it definitely takes time. Like, learning to like acknowledge all these things about yourself, it takes time. Like, a lot of the time people think, like, if you think so highly about yourself, like, you're selfish or whatever, like, you have to be humble. Like, you can be humble but also know who the hell you are at the same time.
But
you
I
know
would I would I would also challenge. Is that really thinking highly of yourself, or is that being realistic about who the traits you have, right? So it's like, I wouldn't call it thinking highly of yourself. I just think that you're confident. Like, and I
Yeah.
know a lot of people like to blur the lines between confidence and being arrogant. So,
Yeah, of course.
um, but I then to that I have a question. Like, do you think there was a specific experience or experiences that gave you this mindset or gave you some sort of epiphany to say, oh, maybe things aren't as bad as I make them out to be, or something like that? Not that you're psyching yourself out, but in the sense of like, maybe you started in a place where it was like you felt bad about certain things, but then something helped you get clarity. Was there a moment of clarity for you that you can think of, or was it just a collection of experiences?
Honestly, a collection of experiences, I would say. But honestly, like, very recently as well. Like, I do care about what people think, and I feel like every human being does that,
To an extent,
as
for sure.
yeah, as like much as they want to be confident and just like, you know they know who they are, like, doing their own thing. Like, sometimes we do, like, we do that. And just like recently, just like realizing a lot of the things that I've achieved and a lot of the things that I have like overcome as a human being. Like, I don't want to let like whatever people think about me like define me or get in my head, you know? A lot of the time we aren't in control of what people even think about us,
Very
you
rarely.
know? Yeah,
Very rarely.
very
Yeah.
rarely, you know? It's like, yeah, like we all give people like different impressions, you know? To you I might be a great person, to another person I might be like a weird and socially awkward person, to another person I could be like a mean person, you know? But it is like part of like the impression that I give off, but I feel like I've always just had like very pure and very kind intentions, but it is also just like them and like how they want to perceive me. And that's something that like has taken some time for me to like realize. And of course I acknowledge like my bad habits, like my bad traits, because I'm not a perfect person. Like I'm 19 years old, like I'm growing, I'm learning still, you know? I make mistakes, but I know that also like I do have like pretty good qualities. And so like whenever I feel like I'm constantly like in my head just thinking about like what other people think about me, I'm like, first of all, you have to think like a lot of the time what you think about in your head is not, well, is worse than what actually like is like with reality, you know?
Yeah, of course, for sure. I think
Yeah.
I think our I think and I've always made this theory like just for me. I think that our brains are wired to think negatively. I just think because it's a self-preservation thing. Because if we
Yeah.
think optimistically too much, we wind up getting hurt. We wind up getting that taken advantage of and things like that. So I think the brain is kind of wired for a lot of people. I won't speak for everybody, to think negatively because it helps us protect ourselves.
Yeah, it's not even like exactly like thinking negatively. I actually read this. Our brain is like wired to survive, you know?
Yeah.
It's to help us survive. And
Literally.
so in situations it's like it's not technically like negativity, it's more like fight or flight, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I would
So
say, or yeah, fight or flight for sure. But then I would also call it like a sense of like watered down paranoia or like skepticism.
yeah, yeah.
Skepticism is what I would say it is. Not negativity, but skepticism is what we're wired to think. We're always
Of
supposed to
course.
be skeptical. We're gonna think, is that as good as I think it is? Is it too good to
Yeah.
be true?
Yeah.
Some people are like, oh, it's as good as it is, as good as I think it is, and they're, and then people are like that, but people like that, unfortunately, are seen as naive. We call
Yeah.
people who think like that naive. So skepticism is a norm. I think people are supposed to be like question everything, right?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, to your point, yeah, I think that it's pretty normal to kind of overthink in a sense. Like some people obviously are D1 overthinkers like you, and I would say myself too. But
Olympic
like, yeah,
overthinker,
literally
guys.
go like the Michael Phelps of overthinking, like so like, but
Real.
I think there's a normalcy to it, right?
Yeah.
Just because question everything, don't just take everything for what it is, which is like to a degree true, but also
Yeah.
like, um, there's levels in which we need to like lighten up a bit because the one thing I learned, the clarity moment for me was realizing people don't give a shit as much as you think they do.
Exactly.
People do not care.
Exactly.
Like they don't.
Everyone is in their own world, like doing their own thing. Like,
Thinking the same thing as you, overthinking the same way
exactly.
you are.
Exactly. Exactly. Like people can be so like, in their own heads. Like they don't care like if you're walking into like class with like a fucking dinosaur costume.
Literally.
Like they're thinking about like what their crush thinks about them or something. Like
I could
It's
walk
just-
in. I could walk into my abnormal psych class with a Bugs Bunny suit on, and I swear to God, people would not blink an eye. They would be like, "What am I getting for lunch? Am I going to the student center? Do I want Jersey Mike's?" They're not gonna give a shit about me in a Bugs Bunny costume. They're
yeah,
gonna be like,
word.
"Okay, like." There's somebody's gonna have a thought like, "Why is he wearing a Bugs Bunny costume?" But nobody's gonna like be like, go outwardly say what's wrong with you. Or, like,
yeah,
like
word. They're gonna be like, "Yo, buddy, sit down. We
They
want
don't
to know what's
care.
with this outfit choice
Yeah.
today." Like,
that's some high school shit. Like you see that in high school because people have nothing better to do. But people in college got lives, they got obligations, they got shit to worry about. Nobody cares. And I think for me, that was the hugest thing of clarity that I had. Like one day I was just like, in college I was like, I realized people don't really care.
yeah.
Like they don't. I used to overthink in high school all the time what people thought about me, how people perceived me and stuff like that. And then it was like I went to college and nobody gave a shit. Nobody looked at
Yeah.
you. And I was like, wow, this is
is
great.
great.
Like, this is great. Like, so I definitely get that point of this, like, this thought process that we all have of it being different from reality because it almost always is. But it's a
Yeah.
way for us to protect ourselves, as you said.
Yeah.
But sorry, I didn't mean to.
No,
You know.
yap away.
Yeah, yeah.
Fellow
Go,
yapper.
go on, please.
No, I think that's all I have for that question actually. But yeah.
No, yeah. I definitely. There's definitely this whole thing of overthinking that you've kind of said here. So I want to know, is that really where the positivity comes in? Do you kind of fight that overthinking with that positivity? Is it like an eternal battle for you? Do you kind of struggle with that? Because I would imagine, like, at least for me, because I'm not. I'm gonna be very honest with my mental health. I'm more so. It is what it is, which is not a good thing, but trying to like have this internal struggle of like knowing what's rational versus your feelings. So
Yeah.
like saying this is not my fault, but feeling like it's your fault, even though you know it's not your fault. Like you get that feeling versus
Oh
your thoughts.
yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
how do you battle that? Is that like the overthinking versus the positivity? Do you have that kind of struggle?
Oh yeah, it's definitely a struggle. Like there's some days where like yeah, my overthinking is so much stronger than like my positivity. And sometimes when I just catch myself overthinking so much, like obviously it's something that's uncomfortable. You know, overthinking and just being in our heads like all the time, like it's uncomfortable. It leads to like a lot of anxiety. It leads to just becoming like like stressful. And so adopting like a more positive like mindset towards things, or just like realizing like okay, this is reality, like this is reality, like Sam, snap out of your head and like actually pay attention to like what's going on. Like it's not that bad, girly. Like I had a falling out with someone in the fall, and um I saw their mother like maybe like 2 months after the falling out, and like she gave me a bit of a dirty look after I smiled at her, and I was like, oh my god, like what did I do? Oh my god, this is like the worst. Like why did she think the worst of me? Like oh my god, I was going insane. I was like so like worried about someone that I didn't even know, like
That had
someone that didn't
nothing
even know me,
had nothing to do with
had
you.
nothing to do with me. And so I like talked to my cousin because I'm like best friends with my cousin, and I was like, and she was like, girl, calm down. None of this, like, the falling out wasn't even your fault. Like, why are you so in your head about it? And then last week, I actually saw her again. And this time I was like, if she wants to give me a dirty look, that's okay. You know? If she wants to give me a dirty look, that's okay. Because she doesn't know me. She never even met me. She doesn't know my intentions. She doesn't know what happened behind the scenes, probably. Like, she doesn't know me. She doesn't know me. And even with people that, like, know me, like, you know, do you truly know me? Like, do you truly know, like, my pure intentions? You know, like, do you truly know, like, who I am as a person, what I'm dealing with, or what I've dealt with, or, like, why I am the way I am. Like, do you truly know me enough to like actually make like a whole decision about me like in your mind? Like, no, you only know like the impression that I gave you. And so I think that definitely helps a lot.
Sounds
But
like a just a rationalization that you kind of just like, okay, the event happens, and then you sound like you reflect on it, and you're like, well, why did I respond this way? And
yeah.
then you kind of like say, well, maybe it wasn't the most rational response. Not saying it's a bad thing to be like, but you're also like,
Yeah.
well, this person doesn't fucking know me, so it's like
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
why am I freaking out? So
Exactly.
I think it's great that you're able to like take that situation, become aware of it, and then have this rational moment of like, okay, maybe this was an overreaction for the fact of this, and then when you
Yeah.
it sounds like you just put it out there and you kind of go through it and you're like, wow, when I think about it, it's really not as it's not that bad. And so
Yeah.
the next time you're able to just kind of like shrug it off, which I think is a great system.
Yeah.
Um, was there a time where that system ever failed?
Oh, oh yeah.
Is what I want
Oh yeah,
is what I'm
most
interested
definitely.
for.
Most definitely.
Like as much as you try to rationalize it, it's still hard to get away from that feeling.
Yeah, of course, especially when it's something that's like ongoing. Like it just like constantly happens, and it's like you get in your head a lot sometimes, and it's normal. Like we spend most of our time in our heads.
Literally.
That's why I saw this quote one time. It was like, make your mind like a happy place to be in, since you spend so much time like in it. And like it's so true. But I've definitely had moments like that, like where I let like my overthinking win, and where I let like just like my anxiety, or just like feelings towards like something specific, or just like things like that. Like I let that win. Like I let that take over, and then I'm like, oh my god, like I can't ever show my face again. Like I can't ever do this again, or like, oh my gosh, like I'm awkward. Like I don't know what people are gonna think about me. But I also try to like talk to myself the same way that I were to talk to like a person, like that I'd say like a friend, right? Like for example, like you'd come to me, like let's say like like hey, like I'm overthinking about something. I try to like help you like calm yourself down. Like maybe I'd like help you like see the situation from like a different perspective. And so I try to do that sometimes. Like I'm like, oh my god, like why was I so awkward? Like I should have done this, I should have done that. But then I was like, I tell myself like, you know what, Sam, like you did the best you could, and that's all that matters. Like you said what you said, you did what you did, and that's all that matters. You know.
So when you had those like real bad days where you kind of let those intrusive thoughts win, how do you cope? What are your
Um,
coping mechanisms?
Okay, I usually just sit with it because obviously you won't be able to move on from something unless you face it, you feel it, and like the first step to healing is feeling. I always like say that
Yes.
to like my friends, to myself whenever I'm going through something. So I sit with it. I let myself sit with it. And then I try to like do little things to like pick myself back up. Either that's going out for a walk, especially cuz like the weather's getting better. I talk to a friend about it. It's really important to like surround yourself with people that like listen and care, like a lot of people want to like live a very like lonely life, but or not lonely, but alone, like,
Isolating.
isolating. Yeah, of course, of course. And that's okay. I mean, like I feel like my circle has gotten like so much smaller throughout the years, but the people in my circle, like, they're genuine. Like they embrace me. They embrace my energy and they listen to me. And that's like really important. So also like just surrounding yourself with people that help bring out the best in you and also celebrate you through like all your seasons of like your life, like that's really good for you. It's important. Friendships are very important because humans are social species. You know,
Very
we're very
social
social.
creatures.
Exactly. Like it doesn't matter if you're like introverted or shy or like extroverted. Like no, it's important for us to socialize. You know, and so like surrounding yourself with people is really important. I often try to surround myself with people that just bring out the best in me. Um, and I try to like think about like what would I do if a friend of mine was like in this position as well. So I try to show up for myself in like the most gentle way possible. I'm not going to be like, yo, snap out of it, like, cuz like that's not always what people need to hear. Like, sometimes like you just need someone to be gentle with you. And so that's what I try to do for myself. I try to like carry myself with just like a lot of like calm and like peaceful and gentle energy because I know like I'm doing the best that I can. And if I'm like harsh on myself when I'm not feeling good, like it's just going to make me feel worse. So like I try to do like little things like that to just help me like feel better. There was one night I was just overthinking so much about myself and like, oh my god, like am I like really a bad person and stuff. And so I actually wrote down like reasons why I think I'm a pretty cool person, or like things that I love about myself.
Positive affirmations.
Yeah, positive affirmations. And that also definitely helps as well. Just like doing little things that like help me just get back into like the swing of things and just like help me get back into like my peaceful and just like good energy. Like that's all I need. But if I need like a bad day, like if I need to like just sit through it, rot in bed, like I'll let myself do that too because like I know that no matter what, like I'll be able to like move out of it or like pick myself up from that.
So yeah, it sounds like you have a really good fountain. I'm not I'm not licensed in anything. But just from what I know, I just want to put it out there. I don't know. I'm not an expert yet at the field, but
Yet.
from what we obviously learned in class, it sounds like you have a really good structure of like coping,
Thank
like
you.
healthy. Because I know a lot of people who may not have super healthy coping mechanisms. So I think to have it, especially like, and now I'm aging myself at your age. Not even like you're young, but obviously we know that the onset of most mental disorders happens from 18 to 24. So to have a great structure, great foundation of coping skills when you're in this area, the red zone of like, manifestations of really bad mental illness, I think is wonderful and is a great protective factor for you to not, kind of go off the deep end when things get rough. Because we see a lot of college students, especially us, obviously, kind of working with CAPS.
Yeah.
We kind of know how bad it can get with people. because people
course.
just don't have that. Um, but thank you for that. That was wonderfully said. I want to kind of touch back on what something you did say that was very interesting. So it seems like there's this very stressing of importance on your social support network, and so I'd like to know a little bit about that. Like tell me about how your friends, your family, how they've kind of like helped you um, on this journey of mental health and positivity,
Ooh, okay.
or if they didn't help you,
No,
because
they have, and like truly, like for like the people in my life that have like listened to me like just yap and cry about a situation until like I was just like okay and just better. Like I appreciate them like so much. Like even to this day, like I'm like, yo, like this thing that happened like 3 years ago, it still doesn't sit right with me. And they're like, bro, like okay, like I'm here to listen anyway. um, I think it is just like truly so important, and I think especially now that I'm like growing and just becoming like older, I'm not picky about the people in my life, but at the same time, like I'm more picky about like my peace, like who I let around my peace and my energy, you know? Because I have very kind and gentle energy and I try to stay open to the good, Like obviously like I want to be skeptical like is this person like really like nice, like is this person like really kind and like supporting me, or like they talking negatively about my like about me behind my back, like should I pay attention to like every single little detail about them? But like there's other times where I'm just like, okay, you know what, this person like can actually be a really good person, and I try to stay open to the good, and I stay open to like meeting new people. But like I'm truly am so grateful for like my friends and my family, because like they are like my main support system, especially like my parents. I feel like I with my parents, like I've definitely had like my ups and downs with them, because I know that they're also learning and growing as well, and I'm very grateful that as like immigrant parents, they've actually taken the time to like learn about mental health as well, because I think that's something that's so uncommon with like this past generation. And so I'm very grateful that like they've also like taken the time to like learn about that. And it definitely helps. It definitely helps. Like obviously there's things that like they don't 100% like understand, and so like I try to explain it to like the best of like my abilities. And I'm just grateful that like they also let me talk about like the way that I feel, and I think they're like very honest with me, and like they give their most like honest opinion on things, which like really helps. And then they try to help me like get out of my room or get out of my bed if I'm not feeling well. They try to do like little things like that to like help me feel better. They know how much I love to like go out into nature, so like sometimes we go out for like hikes, or we go to like the beach. Like they know me so well, and like um it's just like really nice to like have that. Like I know that not everyone has like the greatest relationship with their parents, and I myself can also say that I haven't always had the greatest relationship with them, just because like I'm a teenager growing up, and like they also have like their rules, their ideas, like their standards, and they're also like their past as well, like their past lives as well. And so I'm sorry.
no, you're good.
And so I'm very grateful that like they're there to like also like listen to me, to give me like honest advice, and like just be there for me. And like they know, they can easily tell like even if I don't tell them like what's going on, they immediately know, and they just try to do stuff to like help me feel better from it. And like they check up on me once in a while, and I check up on them, because they're also human. Like before anything, they're human beings as well, and they also go through things. And then also with my friends, it's like the same way. Like I feel like with a lot of my friends, like the reasons why we're so close in that sense is because like we're all very like open with each other, and like we check in with each other like with our mental health and our well-being and stuff. And so they know that I'll be there for them, and then I'm also there for them. No, and they're also there for me. I'm sorry, I'm like
No, you're good.
stuttering a little bit. But yeah, no, I'm just truly grateful, especially like recently. Like I've had to deal with like a very difficult season in my life, and so they've they've been there for me. Like cry, like when I cry, like I've had like my friend be on FaceTime with me, like there were like boogers coming out of my nose, and she was just there like, no, like I'm here for you, like it's okay, like don't worry. And Yeah, no, it's really important to surround yourself with like genuine people and just people that like let you be and let you flow through like your seasons, you know?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that it is very important for, as you said. I just you put a lot you put a lot of information out there.
I'm
No,
sorry.
it's okay. No, don't apologize. It was great. It was great. How do I put it? I think that parents are so undervalued in terms of mental health. Like people talk about it. I think because it's normalized because there's so many people with one parent now, and that has an effect on your mental health, and then or people
Mhm.
with abusive parents or people with parents who were not exactly great. I have this. I call it like this. There's not even a name for it, but there's like these people who don't realize they had bad parents until they grow up.
Yeah.
Like they thought their mom or their dad or both were good, and then they look back at these things that they did, and they went through like this like low key like emotional abuse or something
Yeah.
like that that warped them in a certain way to see the world in a certain way, that gave them difficulties connecting with people or gave them difficulties with their mental health, and they grew to
Yeah.
have depression or any type of like the mood disorder or things like that.
Mhm.
um I think you brought this like wonderful point of one, them also being human, and therefore they're going to have certain biases about things, but two, this valuing of them because of how important they can be. Not and not just for your mental health, but obviously in your life. So I thought that was super. I mean, it's just so weird for me to hear about it because all of my friends have pretty fucked up parents. My situation is complicated,
Of
but
course.
so I think it's great to hear somebody who really does value and treasure their parents because they may not have been the best, but they've grown.
Oh
And
yeah.
also just to hear they're an outlier, to hear a Hispanic parents start believing in mental health is like you
They're
know how
breaking
it
the
is.
cycle.
They're breaking
They're breaking the
they are
cycle.
breaking generational trauma, and I think that
Mhm.
is, and then you are gonna follow in their footsteps, and you're already
Yeah.
making those steps to kind of break that cycle, which I
Yeah.
think is such a wonderful thing to hear. So
Thank
thank you for
you.
that.
Thank you.
Um, I you keep is great because you keep talking about things that I'm like, oh, I want to segue into that. You talk about this difficult situation that or this difficult season you've been having, and I don't necessarily like you don't have to talk about it if it makes you uncomfortable, but I do want to know how have you been dealing with that, because you say a difficult season, that implies that it's been an ongoing thing for you. So how have you been dealing with that?
Wow. So I have been just letting myself feel, and I think that's the difficult part of it. You know,
Yeah.
that's the difficult part of of the season. You know, feeling. That's why a lot of the time human beings don't always like sit with their feelings and like heal fully. You know, because it's uncomfortable, and humans love being comfortable.
Of course, the
You know,
bubble.
yeah, it's like a little bubble. You know, and honestly, like I could have done the same, but at the same time, like I want to fully be able to live like a beautiful life without having this constantly like just biting at me, you know, or having something trigger me and like have it like just all ruined for me. So throughout any situation in my life that takes a toll on me, because although like I've lived a very beautiful life and I feel like I've created like a very beautiful life for myself, I've had to deal with things that are just like awful, like that no child should deal with, no woman should deal with. Like, you know, I've had to deal with some pretty crappy days, you know?
Okay.
And so it's just like the first thing that I do is feel. Like I just let myself feel through it. Like I know that this is something that I'm going to grow from, but the first thing that I have to do is face it. You know, like face that okay, this is my reality. Like this is what's going on. So I let myself feel, you know? Either that's sitting in bed all day like just crying, or putting on like a sad song and just letting myself like just let it all out. Like you know, showing up to school like you know, like I always like to come to school like looking nice and presentable, like but if I want to come to school in like a big ass hoodie and like barely any makeup, my hair's a mess, like I'll let myself do that. Like I'll let myself feel that way. You know, it's like it's important to feel. It's important to like just feel your emotions and face them, because bottling them up is so bad for you.
Yeah.
Bottling up emotions is so bad for you. And so even if it takes me like so long in order for me to get to like the second part of like my healing process, it's okay, because I know that I'll eventually get there. You know, I'll eventually, but it's so important to feel. Like, I cannot, guys, I cannot emphasize this enough. Cry if you need to cry. Feel if you need to feel. Like, it is just so important to do that, you know? Like,
Yeah,
it's so important to do that.
I'm definitely trying to learn that.
Yeah.
Going to therapy, going to group therapy,
Yeah.
just trying to allow myself to feel things that I wouldn't before, because I would try to protect myself because I thought
Yeah.
I couldn't afford to. And at some point I couldn't afford to. Like, there was a lot of stuff going on in my life where I was just like, I can't afford to feel, because if I let myself just become this person who like is so depressed that they can't function, then I would have an issue because I have to function. So I think I grew in my brain this idea that, well, we need to repress because we can't afford to. So unlearning it, I agree with Sam. I 100% emphasize this idea. You have to feel. You have to feel it out. I think that it becomes harder to unlearn it the longer you repress your
Yeah.
emotions for. So like, the past will always chase you no matter how fast you run away from it. Like, it will always catch up to you at one point, and it will always kick your ass when it
Real.
does.
Like, it's like that one bad haircut that like a person has like
For
in third grade, and you know you're like what, like 15 now, and you're like asleep, and then like you wake up out of nowhere and you're like, why the hell did I let someone cut my hair looking like
it's
that?
always that.
It's like
Yeah.
it comes back. It like creeps up on you. So it's like the same thing with like your feelings, your trauma, like your experiences.
We always have that one thought of, why did I do that in fourth grade? Like, we all have those.
Yeah.
And you can't, all you guys watching, you can't tell me you've never had one of those thoughts randomly. Why did I do that in fifth grade? Why did I spell that word wrong in the spelling bee? Why did I ask that girl out or ask that guy out? Why did I do that thing? Like,
Why'd I? Oh my god! Why'd I wear those freaking gold sparkly tap dance shoes to class in sixth grade?
yeah.
I was thinking about that yesterday. I was like, what the hell was wrong with me?
Like, why did I do that? We're all gonna
Yeah.
have gonna have those why did I do that moments.
Yeah,
And that's
exactly.
like, but if you can, it's not just about asking yourself. I think the growth comes when you answer that question, and not for something maybe, silly, like, why did I dress up as Slender Man in seventh grade, right? Like, and it was
On
really,
a regular school day,
yeah,
like
on a
not
regular
even Halloween.
yeah, something like that. Like, why did I, like, okay, so like, maybe not something like that, but something serious. Why did I have that interaction with that person, for example? And you ask yourself that. If you can answer it and accept that answer, that's growth. When you can answer the question in a way that's reflective of you as a person, you say, well, back then I was fucking 13, and you got to cut myself some slack for that. When you can answer it in a way that is rationalizing it and doesn't demean yourself for it, I think that's when you have growth. When you can start answering those questions. It's just a lot of, and I want to go into this, a lot of reflection, a lot of introspection, a lot of thinking about it. Not overthinking, because reflection can turn to rumination. So rumination is when thoughts just start to seep in, and they become intrusive, and then you're just thinking about a bunch of shit. And then you become, as Sam called it, a D1 overthinker. Reflection is just
Yeah.
being able to look at yourself, acknowledge what went wrong, and also acknowledge your growth at the same time.
Yeah, just letting it go with peace.
Yes.
Letting it go with
Thank you.
peace.
That's wonderfully said. Letting it go with peace. Being able to move on from it with peace.
Yeah, word.
Because regrets are corrosive. So when we go, like, how's the day by day for you with this difficult season? That's what we'll call it, the difficult season. Quotation marks. The event.
The event.
So yeah. So how's your day by day with that? How do you take it day by day?
Well, I simply like also just remember that it's not a linear process. Growth is not a linear process. And I
Very
feel like
true.
if I were to ever like become famous, like and I'd have to like drop merch, like I'd definitely like write like growth is not linear on like mugs, caps, like tapestries, like t-shirts.
A shirt.
Like
Make a shirt.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a shirt.
I'll buy it.
will.
I'll be the
I
first.
will. I'll make bumper stickers. Like
Make
I-
one of those groovy. Have the groovy fonts. It's just like growth is not linear.
for real. But I have to tell myself like it's not linear. Like there are days where I feel like I'm on top of the world, you know, but then there's other days where I'm like, yo, like I'm back at square one. Like what the
Yeah.
hell? Like I've been doing so great for like a week. Like why am I crying about this again? You know, like why am I sad? Like why am I overthinking about this again? And I just like tell myself like, look, you've had so many wonderful days already. Like those are just gonna keep on coming, and you're gonna have bad days still, you know, because you're in the process of healing, growing. You know, like there's days where your heart feels heavier, and there's other days where you feel like wow, like I did that, I'm gonna be okay. You know, it's normal. Growth is like a roller coaster, you know?
It's never a straight line, and
We're,
it's never even always forward.
yeah.
Like sometimes you're gonna go backwards, and then sometimes you're gonna go forwards again, and
Exactly.
sometimes you're gonna go even farther backwards.
Exactly.
But then you're gonna even go farther forward. So it's
Word.
like
And you might even do a loop-de-loop too.
yeah,
like
literally. you might go forward and backward in the same day.
For
Like,
real, for
you,
real.
You might feel great at one point, and then you might feel terrible later at night, because we tend to I don't trust my feelings on myself after 3 a.m. By the way, I don't. But
No,
it's like
real,
we
real.
feel like shit. So it's like there's nothing wrong with you. It's a normal process. It's
so
a normal
normal.
process.
It's so normal, especially like when you're surrounded by things that make you think about that difficult season, you know? And so I try to like just incorporate things into like my routine to like try new things, to like bring more excitement into my life. Like I've been trying to say yes a lot to like a lot of more things, you know, socializing, you know, like going and having lunch like at the student center with like a friend, or taking on an event for CAPS, you know, like I've been trying to say yes to more things so that I can, for the plot. No, I'm kidding.
For the plot.
For the
But
plot.
yes,
Doing
but-
things for the
Get
plot.
out of here. The fly. Sorry. Continue.
Yeah, no, but for the plot, like sometimes you have to like, I'm not saying go and like
Don't okay.
do something
Yes,
extreme.
don't do anything
Don't-
super impulsive.
Don't do anything that will get you in prison, you know? Like cut bangs. I cut bangs like 2 months ago, and they're growing back, but for the plot.
For the
You
plot.
know, like incorporate new little things, like little changes into your life, like redecorate your room, try out a new style, like meet new people, try to say yes to doing things more, you know? Because you were okay before. I try to like tell myself like I was okay before this season, you know? I was okay before everything that happened. I will be okay after that. You know? I will be okay after that. And when I have my crappy days, I just tell myself like the woman that I'm going to be after this. Oh my gosh, she's going to be amazing. She's going to be so amazing because she's going to be someone who's smarter, wiser, someone who understands herself and, you know, understands that like, wow, like people go through these things, you know, other people go through these things. And so it just like sparks my passion in wanting to help other people in the future, you know? And it also just helps me understand people, and it makes me a kinder human being, not just to myself, but to the people around me as well. You know, like I had to go through this. I don't, and you know, like I constantly like, you know, still like preach positivity, you know, I still like move forward, and I still, you know, try to be kind and vibrant and happy, you know, despite everything that's going on like behind the scenes. And so there are so many other people that are probably still doing the same thing, that are doing the same thing as I am. So I try to like just be as kind and as gentle as a human being as possible, because people could be going through the exact same thing or something worse or something different, you know? So like it teaches me that. And I try to just do things like that, like to help myself feel better. I've been doing this thing where I do one kind thing for myself, at least one kind thing for myself every day, you know? And that's something that's just been helping me tap into like loving myself a lot more. And it's just been like, it's been really good. Either that's just like having a few minutes of my day to just relax, do whatever I want, or getting dressed up and just feeling good about myself, or buying myself a little sweet treat because I'm just a girl, you know?
Literally just a girl.
I'm literally just a girl, you know? That sucks. That, like, in September, I'm not going to be like, I'm just a teenage girl because I'm going to be 20.
Yeah, but you're still just a hey.
I
You're
still
still
am
just a girl.
I still am just a girl.
Make me
but-
feel old out here, Sam.
You're not
Kid.
old. You're not old.
I'm
You're
not
just
old. I'm not old.
Experience. You're just experienced.
Weathered.
Weathered.
Veteran.
Eroded.
Yeah, literally eroded. Eroded.
You've been through the rock cycle.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah. What was I gonna say? So do your experiences are that is that what got you into mental health? Like what got you into mental health? Because now not just the positivity part for
The
yourself in
fly.
life, yeah, the fly. Um,
He's a
not
guest star.
um, not just you like not just for yourself, but now you want to help others as being a psych major, and wanting to go in the field you're wanting to go into. Is that because of your experiences, or how did where did you kind of discover you wanted to help other people kind of embrace that?
Definitely through my experiences. So I was diagnosed with anxiety when I was 10 years old. I was in fifth grade, and during this time, I was going through just like something so awful, like as a child. But I think I started like showing symptoms of anxiety when I was only 5, because I had a really mean and abusive kindergarten teacher, and she was just very like bad. Like she would yell at children. Like I'd see her like grab children, like grab like my classmates, and like as a child seeing that, that's like scary because you're supposed to feel safe in the environment that you're in.
The fact that you can remember that
And
is probably a testament to it
yeah,
being pretty scary
it
for you.
it was really scary. It was really scary because like obviously like every little kid's gonna like be afraid. Starting school, like who the hell are all these other little kids? Like like where's my mom? Like,
Yeah.
but no, I remember her just being so awful. I actually think like a couple years later she was fired from the school district because she like put her hands on a kid and like the kid told like their mom. But no, she was awful. And I'd feel like sick to my stomach, like I'd like throw up like a lot. And I would like hate going to school. My mom actually told me that like I'd want to play teacher like with my friends that would come over, or like with my Barbies, and like I just act like a very mean and strict teacher, and like I'd say that I was that teacher. And oh my god, like I'm not even being like dramatic or anything. Like she was just really really bad. And I remember like like feeling sick to my stomach, not wanting to go to school. I remember like my little teeth chattering, and like, that's not normal. That's not normal for like a child, because eventually like that starts to wear off. Like you're starting to like actually like school, like you're starting to make friends. But no, it was really awful. And so, I think that's like where I kind of started to like develop anxiety, but I wasn't diagnosed with it until I was 10. And then in high school, like I started going through almost like a little bit of a depressive state because I had recently lost a family member that I was really close with, and I was just going through like a lot of things. Like my high school years were like not the prettiest, but it definitely sparked like my inspiration in helping children and like women like me that have been through things that I've had to go through. And so yeah, like like a lot of people that like want to be in psychology, like I do want like I do use like my experiences to like spark passion in like wanting to help other people, because if it weren't for therapists and if it weren't for like the support system that I have, like I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here. And so I want to be able to do that. Like I want to be able to help a person create a beautiful life for themselves. I
You,
want to be a safe space for a person, because not everyone has that in their homes. Like we just talked about, like not everyone has like the greatest relationship with their parents. Not everyone might have friends that fully understand mental health, or are very busy with like their own stuff to the point where like they can't always be there for you, and that's okay. That's okay. But I want to like use my experiences to like help other people, but also just spread awareness on mental health itself, because I feel like to this day it's still not talked about, unfortunately. Like everyone is always like on your ass, like take your vitamins, drink your water, do your exercise, like
but nobody promotes mental health the same way that
exactly.
they promote physical
Yeah,
health.
exactly. And it's just as important. In fact, I think it's like even more important.
I would say right now for sure, and I think it depends on a lot of, well, quite a few factors, but I really think that, for example, we talk about old people's physical health, like the geriatric ages, but nobody talks about old people's mental health. Like people over 50, nobody talks about their mental health, and they're actually one of the groups at highest risk for suicide, because you're
I
coming to
did not
terms
know
with,
that.
yeah, you're coming to terms with your old age, and the end of your life is near, or you feel like it is, and so the risk of suicide for older people is super high. And we don't talk about that. Nobody
Yeah.
talks about getting
I
mental
did
health
not know
for
that.
yeah. Nobody talks about getting mental health for older individuals.
And I feel like older individuals also have to deal with a lot of abuse and like neglect
Yeah,
from family members, from nursing
yeah.
homes, like from society. Like,
So it's but we're all for the vitamins. We're all for getting walks in every day, and that's good because obviously our physical health and
of
our mental
course.
health are linked. But our mental health and our physical health are also linked. So
Exactly.
you can take all the fucking vitamins you want, but if you're depressed and you're not getting out of bed, you're not getting that fucking walk out. You're not taking that walk.
If you're not eating because you feel anxious or you feel like sick and depressed, like you're
Yeah.
going to like physically start to feel it.
Or to have a more extreme version, if you have an eating disorder, which is caused by mental illness, mental disorder, you're not going to eat. Your physical health, one, is going to go to shit, and then two, eating disorders have the highest death rate of any mental disorder. So it's
Yeah.
like we talk about that link of like importance of health but not importance of mental health when they're so closely linked. So I think it's great that you say that, and I think it's wonderful that you're so passionate, especially about that group of people, women and children, which children's psychology is so important because there's literally new studies every day showing how even younger now, I think there have been 5-year-olds in studies shown to have symptoms of depression, which is like, you know, kind of horrific to think about. Why, like the fact that a 5-year-old could get depression, usually because of things like chaotic households and stuff like that, parenting stuff. Um, but I think it's wonderful that you want to work with that group of people, especially using your experiences and your own setbacks that you've had to drive you to do that. I think is great and is
Thank
what
you.
most of us psych majors do.
Yeah.
And so I just have one more question before we wrap this up.
Okay.
What would you say? What advice would you give to people who may be experiencing setbacks similar to you, or just setbacks in general? How do you think they can adopt a level of positivity? How can they start that journey? Because it's not easy for a lot
Oh,
of people who are
yeah.
depressed or a lot of people who have certain issues to kind of just adopt this optimistic viewpoint. So how do you think you start that journey? Where do you start?
Ooh. Well, actually, like with my own experience, like starting, like, we often hear like a lot of like just generic like positivity, stay positive, stay strong, like, keep a smile on your face, like being positive. Like it's not always like about that. It's not always about just like keeping a smile on your face despite everything. It's about acknowledging what's going on, but knowing that there are better days coming. You know,
For sure.
like, and I think that's like so important. You have to like sit with it. You have to feel it. Like I like literally like was like, guys, like pay attention. Like this is so important. But it is. It's really important to sit with it, to feel it. To go through it. And so, that's like the first step. Like feel in order to be able to heal. And then also treat yourself the same way that you would treat another person. Like human beings, we love being there for the people that are there, like that are there for us. Like, we love being there for our loved ones. Like if your friend or your significant other, like if a family member was having like a crappy day, you'd want to be there for them. Show up the same way that you do, because you constantly give so much love out into this world. So you're also worthy of doing the same thing for yourself, because at the end of the day, yes, we may have like our significant others, our friends, our therapists, like we have people that are there for us, that hear us, that take care of us, that want to be there for us. But at the end of the day, it's like you also have to like put in the work to like help yourself as well.
Be there
It's
for
like,
you.
yeah, be there for you. Like treat yourself with the kindness that you put out into the world, like because you're worthy of that. You're so worthy of that. And when you realize that, and you start to just pay attention and focus on gratitude, that's also another thing. Focusing on gratitude, you'll learn that your life is already so whole and so complete, you know? Like when things like go on, like I often just like I just check in with myself, and I remind myself, like, I have my health, I have my faith, I have my school, I have my friends, like I have my goals, like, I love myself, I have like the people in my life, like I'm complete, like I am already so complete. And you know if another person wants to come into my life, like they're just going to be an addition to that. And if another person leaves, and that's okay, because I'm still whole and I'm still content with myself. So also focusing on gratitude, like different things, like every week. I'm grateful that I was able to make it here and have this like little yab session. I'm grateful that I was able to reconnect with like old family friends. I'm grateful that I was able to even wake up this morning, and that's also another thing. Oh my God, I can go like on and on about this, but celebrating little things, celebrating little things, what may seem like something so normal or like part of our day to day lives, you know sometimes like those things can be so hard when you're going through stuff, like for example getting out of bed, eating, socializing, getting your work done, going out. Like, those are things that can be so hard sometimes when you're not feeling good mentally and when you're in a dark place mentally. And so when you do those things, when you realize like, okay, I'm feeling like crap, but I got out of bed today, and that's important. I'm still here and I'm still breathing, and for that I'm grateful, and for that, that's worth celebrating because I am doing the best I can. Even if I feel like I'm at like a really low point in my life, like I'm doing the best I can, and that's all that matters. You know,
Yeah, absolutely.
you have to celebrate the little things.
For sure. I definitely think celebrating the little things, because it goes into this thing of living in the moment. So it's like
This fucking
we
fly. He wants to be in the podcast
So
so
bad.
bad.
I think there's this level of people being worrying too much about what was and what will be, rather than just worrying about what is. And I think that celebrating little things really helps you to live in the moment, which is such an interesting and important thing now, to the point where mindfulness, which is what is defined as living in the moment, is becoming its own branch of like psychotherapy and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Mindfulness is literally becoming this huge thing, just like learning to ground yourself and be in the moment. So I really like that you said that, because I know it's something that's really up and coming and super important for a lot of people to be able to cope with day to day life, anxieties and overthinking and depression and things like that. So really appreciate that. But I wanted to say thank you so much for coming here today.
Thank you for
I
having me.
really appreciate your energy. Your aura was super. It was Everything was great. Vibes were immaculate.
Chef's
Um,
kiss.
I
Thank
really
you.
I really appreciated the insight. I definitely learned something today, because I definitely have trouble with positivity and with my mental health journey and my struggles.
It's
So
not a steady process. It's
ah,
not a steady
I
process. Like adopting like a more positive mindset, like it's hard. It's not easy. It's not always easy.
Yeah, so definitely, I'm sure there's a lot of people that'll see this and say, "Wow, like maybe I didn't think of it that way." Because college students are struggling. We have a super high incidence, like at least 45% incidence of like depressive symptoms, anxiety symptoms, all that stuff. So, you know, little baby steps that people can take to start their journey of positivity and mental health, I think is great. And so I'm sure you've helped a lot of people today.
Thank you. Thank
Um,
you so much.
yeah, no problem. But with that being said, that wraps up episode 2 of the Human Mosaic. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you next Monday.
Yeah.
The fact that you made me do that